Welcome to Formatting Strings lecture. So here we're going to be covering the built-in Python functional method called formats, and also another built-in Python function called eval and how it works with formatting. Okay, so let's say we have two variables here, which are going to be name equal to Michael, and then we'll have semicolon to keep on the same line, and grade equal to, let's say, a string of A+. And then we have a string where it's the student's name is something, and the grade is something dot format, and then I put in the name and then the grade in that order. And that's, so it says here the student's name is Michael and the grade is A+. Okay, so I can change this to, let's say, for instance, George, and we'll have here triple A+, but that's, and as you can see, it's now changed to George and triple A+ here. So this is the general gist of using the formatting method. So let's take a look at another example. Let's say we have here a list animals, and we'll be learning more about lists in a future lecture. So lions, and then we'll have here zebras, and lastly, let's say we have elephants. So animals you typically see in a safari park. We'll have safari equal to I saw something, something, and something, exclamation mark. And then we'll have here safari dot formats, and then I'll have here animals indexed by 0, animals indexed by 1, and then animals indexed by 2. So I'm accessing the lions, then the zebras, and then the elephants, like so. On that, and as you can see, I saw lions, zebras, and elephants. So an alternative approach would be safari dot formats, and then the asterisk sign, then the list animals. On that, you can see I have the exact same output here. Okay, so note there's a limitation with this particular output. So, for instance, I can't access the various string methods. So I can't do, for instance, upper in this particular line of code in this cell, but I can, of course, in here. So as you can see, the uppercase of lions. All right, and I can also do, let's say, capitalize. So zebras is capitalized, and I can do the same here for the elephants with the uppercase, as you can see. Okay, so moving on from that, let's say I have num equal to a string of 200, and then I do num plus 10. We're going to get a type error here. As you can see, must be string, not int. So a way to resolve that, of course, is with the eval, and then we have 210. Okay, so let's say I have numbers equals a list of 10, 20, and 30, and then I have here a string of just something plus something plus something dot formats, and then the asterisks and numbers here. So we have 10 plus 20 plus 30. So let's say I like to have all these values here added together to have the output of 60. What I can do is have the eval built-in Python function wrap around, and as you can see, we have 60. So let's say I add another number here in this list. With 40, I'll accommodate for that as well with plus. And then I'm going to have 100. Okay, so let's say, for instance, I want to, instead of having the 10, 20, 30, and 40 here, I just want to have 10 in each of these braces. What I can do is 0 here, and then 0 in the other 3 as well. And this is going to generate the output of 40. So we have the 10 in each of these braces. And the reason why I'm putting the 0 there is because 10 is at index 0, whereas 20 is at index 1, 30 is at index 2, and 40 is at index 3. So let's say I want to have two 40s in here and two 10s. What I can do is put a 3 in, let's say, these two here, and we'll get the output of 100, as you can see. Okay, so moving on from that, let's say I have an alternative approach to formatting. So we'll do a string, then %d, we'll have, let's say, multiplication, then %d equal to %d, then the modulus, let's say I have 10, 20, then in parentheses here we'll have 10 times 20, and that's, and as you can see, I have 200. Okay, so let's say, for instance, I have something like 5 divided by 3. Put this here as well, so otherwise it wouldn't make sense. 5 and 3. And then I want to have here, just run this for now, Okay, so if I change this to an F, you can see I have all these numbers here. So let's say I want to change this just to 1.66. So I can simply go here, dot to F, as you can see. So it's rounded up to 67. I could change this to just 1, so it rounds up to 7, or I could do 3, 6, 6, 7. Okay, so moving on from that, let's say I was to have word equal to awesome, and then we'll have the length of this word, just going to have the awesome in here, is something dot format. We have word, and then we have len word. As you can see, the length of this word awesome is 7. Alright, so moving on from that, let's say I was to have days left are, then we'll have num, then we'll do dots 1f dot formats, and then we'll have num equals 300 divided by, let's say, 9. So as you can see here, we have days left are 33.3, so I can change this to, let's say, 10, and we get all these decimal numbers here, 10 in total. Okay, so an alternative approach would be with the Python 3.6 version of formatting, and that starts with f, and then simply the string, days left are, then num. Okay, now note this won't actually work, so I have a value error, so what I need to do is have num defined. It's going to be 300 divided by 9. From that, you can see I have the exact same output here. Alright, so there's just basically two approaches. You could have one where you have the Python 3.6 or the old version of formatting. Alright, so moving on from that, let's say I was to just change this. Instead of I want to have this on another line, well, if I run this, it's actually not going to work. But what I can do is a backslash, a red backslash, and now this should work, as you can see. But note if I do this, so pay attention to the cursor here. If I do a space and then run this, I get a syntax error. It says unexpected character after line continuation character, and it points here. So it's a little bit awkward to see until you actually run the code. So bear that in mind. If I just get rid of that, and as you can see, it's working now. Alright, so moving on from that, let's take a look at one more example. This is going to be with a docstring. So we have here, let's say p1 equals Python, and then keep this on the same line with a semicolon, p2 equals older. And then we'll have here the Python 3.6 version, and then we'll do a docstring, and then I'll have here, this is a doc string that uses p1 3.6 and can't be used for p2 versions of p1. Alright, well that's okay, so you got the /n here. So again, if you simply do the replace, which you've seen before, comma, like so, and then I can do a dot uppercase. So this is a docstring that uses Python 3.6 and can't be used for older versions of Python. Okay, so that concludes my lecture on formatting. I hope it's been insightful, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask in the Q&A. Thanks.